Sutton here, bringing you the IM361 Extra Practice number 6 solutions on simplifying rational expressions. There's a puzzle that goes with this one. Let's see what that's all about. So here's the puzzle that goes with that extra practice. The idea here is that we have some books that were never written. These are the titles of the books, and we're supposed to figure out the author's name, which is going to be some witty, punny sort of thing, I guess. To do this, we need to simplify these rational expressions, most of them by factoring and reducing common factors. And the way they've got it set up, questions 1 through 6, you're going to look in this first box for the answers, and then 7 through 12, you have to do the other box. Whatever answer you see, just put that letter above the space that's next to the number of the problem you just did. So let's say, for example, I do number 1, and I come up with, I don't know, M as my answer. Then I would put an M anywhere I see a 1 up here above. And some of these there might be more than one, like 8, there's a few of them. So with all that in mind, let's see where this leads us. So let's get going with our first problem. For this problem, and really most of these, my strategy is going to be to take out whatever common factors I can at the very beginning, factor whatever else is left over if it is factorable, and then reduce and cancel out common factors. So here we go with this one. It looks like in the numerator I can take a 2 out of there as a common factor. Leaves me with an x squared minus 9. And then for the denominator I can take a 4 out of 12 and 4. So that leaves me with an x plus 3. Numerator can be factored a little bit more. That 2 is still there. We have a difference of perfect squares, so I can square root those and use a plus minus parentheses. That'll give me the square root of x squared, which is x, and the square root of 9, which is 3, so plus 3. And we also then have x minus 3. And then the denominator stays the same, no changes there. So the 2 and the 4 can reduce. That's 1 over 2. X plus 3's cancel out completely. So that leaves me with just the x minus 3 in the numerator. And in the denominator, we just have a 2. So x minus 3 over 2, I see that over here, that's t. So we'll put a t in the 1 spot. And there's only one of those, that's right there. For problem number 2, there's a little bit of a jump in difficulty on this one. As with before, though, I'm going to start by trying to take out common factors. In the numerator, I can take a 3 out of all of those. So that leaves me with x squared minus 8x plus 12. In the denominator, I sure would like to take out a common factor, but it doesn't look like I can. So if I want to factor that, I'm going to have to use the AC method. So my AC value, we got 2 times negative 6. That's negative 12. And actually, let me factor the numerator first, and then I'll get back to the AC method on that. So we have the 3. We have factors of 12 that add up to negative 8. That's going to be, let's see, negative 2 and negative 6. So x minus 2 and x minus 6. And now let me use AC method on the denominator. So we've got negative 12 for that. So we need factors of negative 12 that add up to this negative 1. 1 and 12 doesn't work. 2 and 6 doesn't work. 3 and 4 works if I have a positive 3 and negative 4. So let me split this up into 2x squared plus 3x minus 4x minus 6. And I'll do a little work on the side here to figure this all out. So I can take an x out of my first 2 terms. I'm going to do grouping now because I've got 4 terms. So x comes out of the first 2. That leaves me with a 2x plus 3. And then I can take a negative 2 out of the last 2 terms, leaving me with a 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3 is my common factor coming out of everything. And then x minus 2 goes into the leftovers parentheses. So this is what I'm going to put down in my denominator right here. Okay, can I cancel anything after all that work? It looks like I can. The x minus 2's, and that's about it, but I'll take what I can get. So in the numerator then, we have a 3 and an x minus 6. Denominator, we have a 2x plus 3. Can I find that over on the left? It looks like that's going to be choice A. So let me put A in spot number 2. So I'll just go line by line here. We have a 2 right here. We have a 2 right here. And it looks like that's it. So on to the next. Next up, with number 3, let me start with some common factors. For my numerator, I can take out a 5 and also an x, it looks like. So 5x. That leaves me with x minus 25x over 5x, which is 5. In the denominator, I can definitely take a 3 out of both of those, and also an x. So that's going to leave me with x squared, and 75x over 3x would give me a minus 25. So I'm going to keep going here. The numerator is all set, can't really do anything there. But in the denominator, along with this 3x that I took out, I can break this x squared minus 25 up using square rooting. So I can write x plus 5 and x minus 5. And now, let me cancel some things out. So there's an x right here and here that can cancel out since those x's are being multiplied by things. And then the x minus 5's also are going away. So when the dust settles, we have a 5 in the numerator and a 3 x plus 5 parentheses in the denominator. And as always, we don't have to do that distribution. All the answer choices, things are still factored out. So 5 over 3 parentheses x plus 5, that's a u. So let me put a u in this 3 spot right here. And it doesn't look like there's any other 3's, so we're on to the next. Here we go with our next problem. I'm going to factor the numerator and denominator right away. I can only see one step on each that I can do. So for the numerator, I'm looking for factors of negative 24 that add up to 5. So 1 and 24 doesn't work, 2 and 12 doesn't work, 3 and 8 works if I use negative 3 and positive 8. So x minus 3, x plus 8. In the denominator, this looks like you can't factor it, but because I'm subtracting things kind of backwards from my normal order, I'm going to take a negative 1 out of those. That leaves me with a positive x minus 3, which is very useful because that can cancel with the x minus 3 up here. So when all is said and done, I have a negative answer because of this negative 1 down here, and all that's left is this x plus 8. There's nothing else other than a 1 in the denominator, so I'll just write x plus 8 with a negative and find that over on the left. And I see it over here with letter R, so that's going to go in spot 4. And there's 2 of those. They're both right here at the very end of the last author's name, so R and R. Here we go with problem number 5. For this one, for the numerator, I'm thinking I want to take out a negative 1 because I don't like having that negative x squared. So let me see what's left over. We have an x squared minus 8x plus 16, and that looks like I ought to be able to factor it. I'll come back to it though. In the denominator, I can take an x squared out of both of those, leaving me with an x minus 4. And let me see if I can factor that numerator a little bit more. So I've got the negative 1 I took out, and now we've got 2 perfect squares with a term between them. So I'm thinking this is my square rooting squared binomial shortcut. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 16 is 4. Middle term's negative, so we're going to write negative 4, whole thing squared. And then if I multiply these, x and negative 4, and then double it, that does give me negative 8. So that's what I needed there. Denominator doesn't change at all. Looking for things I can cancel, we have an x minus 4 that we can cancel on each side. I'm going to cancel out this x minus 4 up here. I'm just going to cancel one of those. So let me just cross off the 2. And now we know that there's just one of these x minus 4s left over in the numerator, but none of them in the denominator. All right, let's see what we have collecting everything that's left over. This negative 1 up here gives me a negative overall fraction. And then all that's left in my numerator is x minus 4. And in the denominator, we have x squared. So finding all that over on the left, that looks like letter L. So let me find spot 5 and put an L there, right over there. And I think that's the only one. Here we go with the last problem for this set of answers. So to start things off with number 6, I'm thinking I'm at least going to take a negative out of both ends here, just because we've got the higher terms coming after the subtraction, and I don't like that when I'm trying to factor. So for my numerator, in addition to taking out a negative 1, I can actually take an x out of both of those as well. So negative x. That leaves me with positive x squared minus 49. For the denominator, all I can do is take out a negative 1 there. So positive x squared plus 6x minus 7. All right, let's go a little bit further. For the numerator, I have that negative x I took out, and I can use my plus minus square root shortcut on the x squared minus 49. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 49 is 7. So we have x plus 7 and x minus 7. Down below, we have the negative 1 still. And I need two numbers that multiply to negative 7 and add up to 6. Well, 1 and 7 is it. We just have to get the signs right. So negative 1, positive 7 would work. So x minus 1 and x plus 7. Looking to see what I can cancel. The x plus 7s are going away. And also these two negatives here are going to cancel each other out. So what we have left over then, we have an x and an x minus 7 in the numerator. And in the denominator, all that's left over is this x minus 1. So finding all that, I see that's going to be letter C right here. So let me put that in spot 6. There's one of those right here, and also on the second line right here. Next up, number 7, the first problem with this new set of answer choices. Now the game changer on these, you might notice, is that we have different letters, and in particular, some of these have A's and B's in them, so we're just going to have to be aware of that as we do these. All right, so for this one, let me start with my numerator. No common factors up there, but I can definitely split it up. I am going to take some common factors out of my denominator. So numerator, we need numbers that multiply to 18 and add up to 11. 1 and 18 doesn't work, but 2 and 9 does if they're both positive. So a plus 2, and I need a b in there as well to get this b squared at the end. And then I'll have a plus 9b. Now for my denominator, I can take an a and a b out of both terms. Taking that out of the first term just leaves one of those a's. For the second term, the a is gone. One of the b's is still there, though, along with the 9, so plus 9b. And then canceling out what we can, the a plus 9b's are gone. So that's just a plus 2b over ab. And I see that right here with choice D. So let me put that in spot number 7, right down there, and that's the only 7. For number 8, there is a little bit to do with common factors. In my numerator, since I'm subtracting these kind of out of order, I want to take a negative 1 out of those. So I'm going to call this negative 15a to the 5th b. So that negative 1 over there, that changes this to a minus 5. And then denominator, I'm not going to change at all. It's as factored as it's going to get. Now let me cancel things out and reduce. So we'll start with the 15 and the 6. Those can reduce by 3's to give me 5 over 2. The a's can reduce. 5 minus 2 gives me a to the 3rd in the numerator. And the b's can also reduce. 3 minus an invisible 1 for the exponent gives me a b squared downstairs. And then the a minus 5's cancel completely. So a lot of crossing off. Let's see what's left over. First off, this negative is still up there, so that makes the whole fraction negative. And then we have a 5 and an a to the 3rd, and that's it. Downstairs we have a 2 and a b squared. So negative 5a cubed over 2b squared. It's this I right here, and that goes in 8. So we have an 8 right here in the top. There's no 8's on the second row, but there's 1, 2 8's down in that last row, which this is kind of interesting. I'm curious what this is going to end up being. These are names of authors, supposedly, though, so I guess it could be a little bit weird looking. All right, let's keep going. For number 9, it looks like I've got some things that I can reduce or cancel out. Before I do that, though, let me factor these parentheses out to see what else I can cancel. So for my numerator, we have the stuff that they gave us initially, 4a cubed and b to the 4th. But now this parentheses, I'm looking for numbers that multiply to negative 42 and add up to 1. 1 and 42 doesn't work. 2 and 21 doesn't work. Let's see, there's 3 and 14 that doesn't work. I think 6 and 7. Yeah, 6 and 7 works. Negative 6, positive 7. So a minus 6, a plus 7. Now in the denominator, there's not a whole lot to do, but we are subtracting out of order. So let me take a negative 1 out of all that. So that's negative 28, a to the 4th, b to the 4th. And now I have a positive a and a minus 6. All right, let's reduce and cancel. 4 and 28 definitely reduce. That's going to be a 1 over 7. A cubed and a to the 4th reduce. That leaves me with a to the 1st in the denominator. B to the 4ths cancel out completely, which is nice. A minus 6's also cancel completely. So what's left over here? This negative in the denominator, we can use that to make the whole fraction negative. In the numerator, let's see, that canceled, that canceled, that canceled, that canceled. All that's left really is this a plus 7. And in the denominator, we had a 7, we had an a to the first, and it looks like that's it, so 7a. And I see all those 7s. I see a lot of 7s in B right here, but I feel like we got an extra thing that doesn't belong down there. So there's also this J, answer J right here, that has exactly what we need. So we're going to put J in spot number 9. So there's one of those right here, and I think that's it. On to number 10. Time to give this one a shot. Let me look for common factors first. For my numerator, these both have an a to the third power that I can take out. Leaves me with a minus 8b. In the denominator, definitely can take an a out of all that, and I think that's it. Leaves me with a squared minus 64b squared. Moving forward here, the numerator is as good as it's going to get in terms of factoring, so I'll just leave that. In the denominator, though, after I took out this a, I now see that I have a difference of 2 perfect squares, so I can square root both of those and use a plus minus parentheses. Square root of a squared is a. Square root of 64b squared is 8b, so a plus 8b and a minus 8b. The a's here in the beginning can cancel or reduce a little bit. That leaves me with an a squared in the numerator. And then these a minus 8b's also can cancel out completely in this case. So when the dust settles then, upstairs I've got an a squared. Downstairs I have an a plus 8b. And I can see all of that stuff right over here with choice E. So that's going in spot 10. So this 10 gets an E. Down on the next line we have a 10 right here getting an E. And even further down we have another E over here. And then finally an E on this last line. I mean, E is a pretty common letter, so I guess I'm not shocked if one of them was going to get repeated. It's that one. All right, moving on. So here's the penultimate problem, second to last problem. Let's start with common factors. For the numerator, definitely can take a 4 out of all those. That leaves me with a squared plus 2ab minus 3b squared. And then for the denominator, if I take a 6 out of all those, I have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Let me factor a little bit further. The 4 is still there for the numerator, and now I need factors of -3 that add up to 2. Well, 1 and 3 is really our only options, and it works if we make it -1 and +3. So we'll make it a minus 1b, have to have that b in there, and then a plus 3b. For the denominator, this one is actually a perfect square sandwich. I can use my squared parentheses shortcut on this. So I have the 6 that I took out. The square root of a squared is a. Square root of b squared is b. And since I have a negative middle term, I'll make that a minus b, whole thing squared. Multiplying a and b together and doubling it, I do get that 2ab term in the middle, so this works. And I can cancel out one of these a minus b's down here, along with the ab up there. But before I do that, let me reduce the 4 and the 6. So that's 2 over 3. But now, yeah, let's do those a minus b's. So that leaves me with no a minus b's up there and only one of them downstairs. All right, picking up the pieces. For the numerator, we have a 2 and an a plus 3b. For the denominator, we have a 3 and an a minus b. I see all that over here with this n. So that's going to be 11n. So there's an n going there. Another n going right there. And I think we're done with those. Okay, here we go. Final problem. So let's start with common factors. For the numerator, definitely can take a 10 out. Can also take out an a squared and a b. So 10, a squared, also a b, leaves us with, I think, just a for that first term. And then this whole thing is that second term, so that's a +1 there. For the denominator now, I can take a 2 out of those, along with an a to the first power and a b cubed. So taking all that out, we have an a for that first term, a 2a actually, because 4 divided by 2. And then this whole thing is that second term, so that's a +1 there. Let's see what I can reduce now. Can't factor any further. 10 over 2 reduces to 5 over 1. A's reduced to give me an a to the first power in the numerator, and these b's are going to reduce to give me a b squared in my denominator. And then I can't cancel anything else out. So in the numerator, I have a 5, an a, and an a plus 1. In the denominator, I've got a b squared and a 2a plus 1. And I can see that right here with this s. So that's what 12 is. We got an s right here and another s in that first line. Then we have a third s in the second line and the last s, the last letter, right down here in the third line. Okay, we filled in all our letters. Let's go ahead and solve these puzzles now. So again, these are names of authors. So we have the book Everybody Needs Insurance by Just In Case, right? Because insurance, just in case you have an accident. Rock and Roll Your Baby by Les Dance. And I think Les, isn't that like the name of a guitar? I don't know. Dancing makes sense, though. And then 50 Years in the Navy by Aye, Sir. Aye, Sir. Very funny. Till next time, Mr. Sutton signing off.